School of Unlearning, I mean, the whole idea behind having it is because kids grow up with filters. Why do they have these filters? These filters are blocks. They close their minds. They don't question anymore. Rather, they just accept orders as they are. They just take in and don't question.
Well, that's what schools are designed to do at this point right now still, and they started it with that mindset when it was World War II. It's like antiquated systems now. As people become more of a feeling being and a more, higher consciousness being, not only are people going to accept that anymore because it's not working for them, so therefore it just falls away from their lives because it's not working, and this environment can only sustain higher consciousness people at this point in the shift. So when it's moving into that area, I mean, we can have nothing but schools that nurture children in that way, where it's like we need to talk about communication too, like after a certain point, like how, whatever, I don't know, maybe 12, you talk about correct communication from the heart that honors the other person. I mean, that's another class, communication. People don't know how to communicate with each other. You know what I'm saying? It's there's tools for everything that needs to happen. And it's not necessarily math anymore. It's sacred geometry. It's art and math.
I think we're born to grow into these tools and we're derailed from that.
Right, and we're not really given those tools. I mean, when we're here, we come in and we're so young, we don't know. I mean, it's already there, but we don't know what it is. And then if we become an adult without cognizing it, without affirming it, without saying, yeah, you are a high being. You're here to make the most of this life. You know what I mean? Not to do what I say or to do, what another person says necessarily, but to do what your heart says and your spirit says. Affirming spirit is so important.
I think part of that, one of the first things that goes into children's mind is first the propaganda in the TV selling the shit that they learn to learn, not what they naturally learn. And then they consume through these advertisements these elements into their body, whatever it's information or food.
Exactly. So therefore, the problem lies in too much looking into a screen. Okay, so you unlearn the screen, or you just don't let them learn it to a degree.
Or you identify the elements in that screen and see it for what it is, rather than being reduced into it.
That's part of the inquisitive question nature, being taught to question everything in your environment with your own values, like you were saying before about questioning, encouraging individuality.
The other element is there seems to be a double standard about health. There's what the public tells you is healthy for you, food pyramid, and then there's the other part is what your body is telling you. And to a body that's not trained to the propaganda, or to a body that's been unlearned from that, where you listen and are more in tune to your body, you start to rebuild those associations you built when you were a child,
right.
With what food does what for you.
Well, that should be in the schools too. It's about learning how to grow your own food, your own flowers, your own medicines. That needs to be part of the curriculum.
Now, when you say grow your own medicines, that is a lot different than what normal people think what medicines are. Medicines are everywhere in nature. And we aren't talking about pharmaceuticals, we're talking about natural plants. And every plant on this earth has a specific property to the body. And generally speaking, these properties stabilize the body rather than cover something up.
Exactly. I mean, there are some pharmaceuticals that actually have ingredients that are natural, but the whole, everything else that makes it what it is and the way they process it, and the fillers and everything else, I don't know, aren't necessarily the things that you want. I mean,
even things that are like herbal, let's say herbal on it, although it has fillers in it too,
Right.
So you have to be careful where you get your herbal medicines from. And as you said, I think it's important for people to learn to grow their own, because if we don't grow our own, then our soil is not going to recycle itself, and the soil is going to become more dormant.
The soil has become dormant. The soil is, in many cases, underneath all the grass that people have, pretty much dormant and not ready to grow anything. It would take a year or two to make the soil ready, with fertilizers and compost and, just lots of rain and water. So every person's front yard could be their garden plot. But I mean, if there's a lot of fucking cars though, there's some shit going by all the time, But still, I mean, that's kind of a cool idea,
What's a cooler idea is if you think about as Mr. Rogers would say, is you treat your mind as soil and you grow ideas.
Right, that's true. But I mean, sustainability and environment and growing your own food is really definitely part of the new curriculum, I think. And in that whole
And it's
being connected to your own food, yeah.
That concept is universal because, like I said before, with the parallel is you take everything you learn in growing plants and apply that to the parallel of growing ideas in the mind.
Right.
The stability, the renewal, the seasons, and just that concept of parallels to life in the universe is if you recognize all the cycles in the universe as being equals, as being reflections of the reactions, that you can take one learning and apply it to the rest of the world, to the rest of your understanding.
The single thing equals the whole. Yes.
And when you talk about communication, there's also vibrations. There's more than just verbal.
Oh, of course.
There's.
And that could be in the school too. It's interpreting vibration through intuition.
Yeah, or just intuitively interpreting. It's you don't have to tell somebody what that expression means. They know in their gut.
Right, and also because they have to know through their own filters, through their own experiences, what that means. Because what it means to one person is totally different than it means to another person. So, I mean, it's so unique. We are so unique. That's why it's so hard to say, there is one way. This is how you have to do it. And schools need to be more diverse and open to a person in exactly where they are.
We also have to be very accepting of different ideas and the different qualities of a person. And some people might look down as quality as bad. We need to be open and just see that everything is unified as part of the universe. It's part of the dynamic.
I think that somehow the more crude state of mind of man wants to categorize and control. And I feel that we're really moving out of that paradigm. I really feel that.
That's very important. We spent the last 300 years, even longer,
It's the building up.
categorizing,
Yeah.
putting things in compartments. And that implies that things are not connected.
Right. And when you look at that kind of stuff, you can tell that it's not connected, and that it just stands out.
I mean, even look at the table of elements. Everything is a combination of a unit. We're taught in school that 1 plus 1 equals 2, but why is it? Because 1 is the smallest number. That's the unit. Everything is like building blocks.
Right.
Existence in the material form is the same way. It's building blocks of something of the unit. And the Greeks have called it the one man. And Hinduism called it, they think it's a very equivocal term of the all, but it's the one and the all.
Okay.
Just different cultures. Science, the thing with science is it has to be observable to be accepted. And they've got it as far as work. thing with quantum mechanics is that there's a reality beyond observation, and observation actually affects our reality.
Right, so therefore, it's a moot point.
Right. I think truth comes from within. If we search deeper in
Absolutely.
ourselves, inward rather than outward. Our reality is in our mind, but all this is just a projection. And if we realize that, I think we're moving forward. And then to even question time, because the only thing that does exist is now. The past is now, the future doesn't. Everything
Time is
is
a construct
accessible.
too. Time is a box. Time is a construct.
Yeah, it's a perception.
It's a bad word
and a
for
perception changes.
some other thing. It's actually an incorrect concept for some other thing, which is nothing. Does that make sense? I mean, because like, the reason why people have time is so that they can categorize, and so they know how to wake up and go to sleep, and like, and how many, you know, what day your birthday is, and how many months until Christmas and whatnot. You know, I mean, but everything does that though, and if you just pay attention to the sun, I mean, that's why Stonehenge was built, right? It's kind of an archaic calendar. People want to know and think about how many days have gone by and shit. I think that lots of people do. I love in the summertime not knowing what day it is, not knowing what time it is.
Well, there's something to be said about that particular time, because that particular time is cosmologically
Right.
intentionally so, because
Yeah.
because when you apply astrology to that, that goes back to the cycles and how everything becomes in sync and attuned to it. Is that we all have these synchronicities that are connected with the cosmos, different qualities and events that happen at specific times through time are all connected with the universe. It's not a health, it's not your possible.
No. It's totally, yeah.
It's just orbits.
That's a total truth right there. I think that there's sometimes there are total ultimate truths, and it doesn't have to be questions. And it doesn't have to be science.
You do what you feel. Part of that brings out truths. You see something, you feel something, and then it comes to you later. You don't necessarily know
Right.
at that moment.
Yeah. It could be a whole process for sure. I mean, you are so like multi-dimensional in so many ways that you're not accessed or not noticed yet. And that's another part of the school, is accessing your multi-dimensional personality, your multi-dimensional individuality. If that makes any sense.
Through the creative process, I think it's
Through the
important
creative process,
to
it's
do
so
it.
huge. It's so huge in the school. The creative process, it has to be like the main crux of the curriculum.
Yeah,
It has to.
if it's not, if it's just a bunch of people meditating, we're not doing anything.
Right, although then there's nothing wrong with it.
No, there isn't. But the meditation doesn't necessarily work for everybody that way. What it does is
Moving
create
meditation
levels.
sometimes does. Like when you bring awareness to your dance.
Dancing is important.
Dancing
And
is
that's
so
creative. And there's a thing about dancing that's free form, and there's a thing about dancing that's more structurally categorized. And I think we need to move away from that categorization.
Yeah.
I suppose it's important, like when you're learning Tai Chi or you're learning
Yeah, but Tai
yoga.
Chi without knowing the Tai Chi is so much more powerful. Like if you don't learn the forms or whatever they're called, and you go outside and you start moving your hands, the energy is what the essential idea
Because
of Tai
you're going
Chi.
with your own energy.
Right, yes, exactly. Now what people have told you
Right.
for like 25 times already. And that's true Tai Chi. You know, because you
It's true to
Not-
yourself, not
yeah.
to anybody else. People
right,
can see it
it's
and
true
be
to yourself, but you
inspired.
can only
by
be
it.
true to yourself. Right.
Right.
I mean, you're the only person that can be. And that's the whole idea about becoming a more amazing human being, which I think is a wonderful reason to come and be alive on this earth, is to become your highest self. I think it's a really cool way of like doing it. You know, so you constantly are like working on yourself, and it's a domino effect, a ripple effect that affects everyone around you. For every one person that is bringing awareness and consciousness into their life, like in a way that is working for them and like helping them to thrive, it like affects like 100, 200, 300 people. You know what I mean? So that's why you bring it into the schools for the children, so that they know.
yet allow the children, and then the grown-ups too.
Well, yeah, that's the
Yeah.
unlearning school.
Right,
We gotta talk
the
about
unlearning
that.
school is.
What's similar? There's a mirror to the curriculum. There is a mirror.
There's like, we could have like triggers, like words, sounds, visuals.
That's
and,
huge.
then, and, then,
Triggers
and,
are
then,
important.
and then people go up and they write whatever falls out of them as a conduit to themselves, to their light, which is the answers.
Yeah.
The moment.
That's a huge tool right there. I mean, we were talking about that earlier, about gathering tools. We're like, right now, we're making ideas for the tools. I wish I was writing some of this stuff down.
Well, one of them that I came up with is like a game set. It's like an abstract game set. This guy Jeff
Right. That's
made
what
this
we're talking about.
big huge game piece, and there's no rules. What it is it's social engagement.
Right.
One person decides to go here, and Jeff changes the variables for everybody else because he explains why, and you start setting associations to what you see on the board based on what people output
Right.
and how they react to those. And you just go around the table and each person just builds on that stuff. And you end up with a story, not just a story of the community.
And in that situation, you can also, and the person will also, another person might learn from your situation too, to see how you go through something. And maybe that might work for them, which is really, like, that is about community, about being whole in your community and your social interactions, and true to yourself.
And also the thing about triggers is another aspect of that is chance. We have dice, we have tarot cards, we have just a standard deck of typical bicycles.
Right.
And
And images, use images.
images, and you can overlay different things. You can have like a chessboard that's overlaid with cards. It's overlaid with like a couple people like the Tower of Judah. And what you do is you flip the card. What does that mean to you? If it means something to you, how do you associate that to moving a piece of the chessboard? And once you move a piece of the chessboard, do you decide then to move a piece of the Judah?
And not only is this a process of like healing and becoming more of who you are, it's also like living art. You know what I'm saying? Your life can be living art. It's where you put your focus. I think if people live art and live themselves, it becomes art if you live your truest self. I mean, I guess there's murderers and stuff that are like, you know.
Well, here's the thing that needs to be said is there's this thought that you have to have competition to do it up.
Right.
I think that's an important element that can be applied here somewhat, but not in the way that it's out in the world. With the game pieces, for example, you flip a card. Well, the objective is to interpret each card as a positive quality about you. Tell a story. What does a card mean to you?
That's cool.
Not what somebody else says what the card means. And
Wow, that's cool.
and if you apply it that way, you can look at everything, even a problem, as a mode to a solution. That may even lead you better out than what you're looking for.
Right. It's really good. That's important. It's a huge tool right there that has many levels and layers. Music as a tool, especially improv music as a tool. I think that's important too. It's like, especially for the adult end of the spectrum, is to express, even if you're not a musical person, but express musically somehow. You know, I think
I think the thing people have as a guard is they think they're expected to sound a certain way. So somebody
Right.
that's new to music will keep a rhythm.
right,
They'll just start tapping consistently.
right,
And maybe they'll tap loud, maybe they'll tap softly. They don't understand that there's a whole gamut of measures to express yourself,
right,
to express what you're feeling in a moment. And then if there's other players, to be able to connect with them in that expression, to be able to communicate.
right. And that's another social tool too, is opening yourself to another person's energy and connecting with it way that feels comfortable, or feels safe. Because a lot of people don't feel safe. That's an unlearning thing too.
It is, yeah.
Yeah. It's like,
You have to reach to the first stage of not caring what other people think, to the stage of accepting what other people think, to the stage of becoming so aware and knowing, feeling what you're doing as being you, that it echoes into the environment so much that people either adapt right away to it or they eventually adapt to it. As far as acquiring peace and acceptance, if you really believe in yourself, people that don't believe it, they'll eventually have no choice.
right, exactly. Because you're just doing you. You can only do you. You know what I mean?
Or you can face somebody else, but that's not real.
Right,
you know?
right. Yeah, but to thrive, It's like an echinacea flower can't try to be a dandelion flower, or it will never succeed at being its echinaceousness. It wouldn't be an echinacea. It's trying to be something else. Let's make some music. I like this best.
Yeah, usually people use it for secrets, but I think it's better for this purpose. Alright, thanks. This is our first discussion for the school, the School of Unlearning.
Yeah, and then like the other side of the campus, which is school for children.
Just call it Brooklyn Goes to Classrooms.
Oh, that's gonna be beautiful.
Yes, I think the best way to reach children is to do it in a medium that is entertaining and stirs their curiosity. Because their minds are already expanded. They just need to have something that allows them to accept to grant them that access. Because they're so trapped in the way they're thinking, the way they're taught, that they don't feel they have that access to be playful, to be open, to meander, to wander.
It's interesting because that, like, even from preschool, we were taught to sit down on the carpet, cross-legged, watching the teacher, just do her thing. I mean, not that it's a bad situation, singing to children and leaving that kind of energy is wonderful. But, I mean,
You gotta
it's
get,
not control.
yeah,
From the start.
and the children has to be part of that process. They just can't be observers, because then that teaches them to just accept whatever's given to them, to watch the TV.
Right, exactly. That's totally connected to them. That's
Right.
so connected to them. That's why we have to remember there's too much time in the screen. You need to have live entertainment, and being able to know how to entertain yourself.
And to connect the children to that entertainment, involve them into it,
Yes, yeah.
make them part of that creative process.
Right, because there's too much screens. I really think the screens have gotten out of control.
They have. Parents are so busy working that
It's like a
that's their way of keeping them content.
And that's part of the problem. It's
and
like
video
having to
games.
work, both parents, work, make money so we can pay bills. Make ends meet.
I think video games is the next level for allowing children to grow the creative process, however it's structured in a very limiting way. And a lot of it promotes they promote like the anger stimulate the anger.
There's a lot of
reptilian
anger
part of the
in
brain.
videos, yes. Yeah, it's, whenever I look at those, my head starts to hurt.
Right.
Yeah, so.
And then that's so prevalent. There's other games out there that are a lot better than that, where that focus on like building something.
Then again, that's a structure you're building. And you're still looking at the screen.
That's right. You gotta get out there and apply it to just like connect with people, not through a screen.
Yeah. All this stuff that I hear about, like, well, I don't want to get into all that stupid stuff. I want to do some music, but a lot of, when you hear about, when the shift happens, all the screens are going to go and all the electronics. But if people could live like 3 or 4 days in peace and safety without screens, it would be such a nice gift.
I think that's why it's important for people to grow their own food.
Yeah, because you
Because
have to be out there.
if that shit happens, you can't rely on our supply chain because that's happening.
I mean, it might not be like boom, but it's already happening.
I think it's a good shift. Not necessarily. I don't think it's necessarily going to destroy electronics, although it has that potential. There's a lot of hysteria about that.
We have so much technology back up. Yeah, but I mean, it could. And it's just really interesting. At every moment, I think about so many different realities. I mean, like, not always. But if I bring my attention to, like, how many realities can happen in this very moment right now? It's like, I don't know how this is connecting to what we were originally thinking, but it's like, you know, that whole Matrix thing. It's like, what if this isn't even fucking real? You know?
I've heard explanations for how there's higher states of consciousness and awareness of being morphing from the universe, and this earth, this reality is just one of those levels. There's more encompassing world reality that we're not receptive to.
I think that's important to remember. But you know, another thing I want to put in our schools? Simplicity. How to be simple. How to get down to the point of simplicity and let everything fall away. Because everything else is bullshit.
You know, when you try to explain something, you're explaining away for why 1 plus 1 equals 2. Too much, you know?
Right.
It's like Atkins' razor, what Einstein said is keep it as simple as possible, but no simple.
Yeah, that's right. I think it's really important to get down to that. And then there's going to be people. I think there's going to be the simple sayers or whatever you want to call them. The people that are like able to come down to the nitty-gritty, to the
down
simple
to earth.
truth. And they can
don't-
say it, and then it reverberates out. You know what I mean? And people are like, oh, and they remember.
Yeah, I didn't realize it that way before, but yeah, now it makes sense.
Yeah, and then
This whole time I was just believing, but now I know.
right. And then that creates the unified field too, where it's like, but those unified fields need to, like, okay, the unified field, everybody watching the Super Bowl all at once. Okay, so why don't we say that during halftime, instead of Janet Jackson, we have a fucking intention setting ceremony for healing the planet or whatever, you know, whatever, happy birthday Charles or whatever, you know, I mean, just like something where you take all the collective energy of so many people's minds, vibrations, to make higher vibration for the planet, for the universe. You take those opportunities.
People have to be accepting of that. You know, we're reaching into an era where people are more receptive to acceptance.
Because people know that things aren't really working the way they are right now. It's becoming much more evident. Much more evident. They aren't working. Nobody, especially politics. People are like, what the fuck? Can't you see everywhere everybody's like,
Yeah, we're stuck in a two-party system, and you're going to get the same bullshit no matter what party you vote for.
It's so archaic, just like schools.
And people will vote for the opposite party just because they're blaming the last party on all the bullshit.
Oh my
They're
god,
both
that is
bullshit.
such same shit, different day. You know what I'm saying? It's like, why are we operating within that thought paradigm? It's so uncool. It's not even working.
If you want to be involved in politics, you're either part of those royal families, or you're just greedy, and they'll take advantage of your greed and use it as a tool.
I think it's one of those things to me that's just like, drop it. Move on. It's just so not positive. It's just like really, everybody's like, oh, you gotta get involved politically. No. I don't want to have anything to do with that.
It's very discouraging to get involved in politics.
Because then you give it your energy, and it becomes, oh my god, this
and
and that, this and that.
And then it gets depleted.
It does, because it takes all
and if you
your
try to do
anger and
something
weirdness.
good, or if you try to go after somebody, they'll take a dirt on you and wipe you out.
Whatever it is, because it's cutthroat, whatever that situation is, just not working anymore. It's just not. And that's like, okay, so political reform, educational reform, free energy, those three things. Free energy is huge.
It's important to get involved in it as much, or everybody's going in all these different directions.
Yeah, because they don't think that they can branch out on their own. They need to have like that big water.
There's like 100 different things with people doing the same thing separately. It's energy that's unfocused. But really, the real solution is for us to do our own. Not to do that kind of nonsense.
The real solution is taking responsibility for yourself. The highest freedom is taking responsibility for yourself. Because I firmly believe that for every one person who does that, to whatever degree they are capable of, and that's why we also have these schools, because we teach other people how to be free. But to whatever degree they're capable of in the time that they're there, to, you know what I'm saying? It's you have to have that. I don't want to be like, okay, this is the way it has to be, because there's so many realities. But responsibility towards yourself is like
That's the first
it's a
major
simple
step.
thing. It's a simple thing.
It's the first major step.
Right.
And then connecting with other people, creating communities, is a major step toward independence, building your independence. You can have your independence with yourself. You have to be connected with people to make you.
Here's a question. Do you think the survival of the fittest instinct, the instinct to survive, is connected to greed?
No.
Not in its purest form.
Not
But
as serious one.
Distorted. Yes.
When you're given that layer of money and the idea
That makes
of
you
like
higher.
building up to a higher level,
That's
then
false.
that corrupts, because
false and
it's not
corrupt.
really survival of the fittest,
No.
because you're being dependent on
And
all
it's
these
money.
things below you.
Money is your God then. Money is your fucking, is your prison. That's what
Prison,
it is.
right?
Money is your prison then. Yeah. Sure.
I
That's
think
why energy is so important.
somebody that's all the way high up there on the ranks is not going to know what to do shit if, say, there was a solar flare that burned out all electronics and that person can't go to the grocery store. They got millions of dollars, but they can't buy a gallon of milk because they couldn't get the supply because it's all fucked up.
Right. Right.
Go find a cow, feed it, grow something. Ooh, cow, what's that? Where do I grow? What's a seed? Can I pay somebody to do that for me?
Awesome.